Okay, so in this video, what I want to talk about, what I want to focus on is a fairly common scenario that happens with people who are dealing with panic attacks. And that's when they get stuck in this state of anxiety. It's not quite a panic attack, but it's a very high and uncomfortable state of anxiety. I refer to it as a sub-threshold panic. I call it a sub-threshold panic because if you've seen my other videos where I conceptualize panic attacks as a spiral, right? It's a cycle, right? But we can really conceptualize it as a spiral that keeps going up, 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 and then culminate at the very peak. And that's the very peak of a panic attack. That's that moment when you are feeling like something catastrophic is about to happen. Like literally the next second is about to happen. An analogous situation, a real life situation that's not panic related to that state is if you're, for example, driving in traffic and a car just whoop, jumps right in front of you, and you are convinced that in the next half a second you're going to hit that car, and you fear for your life. So you have this wash of adrenaline. Everything just floods over you. Thinking slows down. That's that peak state of a panic attack. Um, Except for a panic attack, it just keeps repeating, right? So in a sub-threshold panic attack or subthreshold panic, you don't quite reach that very peak. You kind of like, you keep climbing, you keep looping, right? So by the way, just to remind you, the panic cycle is fear of symptoms of fear. You keep spinning in this, you're going up, 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 but you kind of stall somewhere around here. Perhaps, this can happen for various reasons. Usually, it's because the person kind of feels like, I don't think a panic attack is going to happen, but I feel terrible, right? The moment you can say to yourself, I don't think a panic attack is going to happen, a panic attack will not happen, right? The confidence actually cancels out panic attacks. So sometimes people get stuck in this still very uncomfortable state, this mid-panic attack almost, right? Your body feels uncomfortable. You might be feeling funny. You might be seeing things funny. Your vision might be changed. You might be feeling tingling in your fingertips, tingling in your toes. You might be feeling all kinds of energy coursing through your body, muscle tensions. Your breathing might be constricted. And this can go on and on. Unlike a panic attack, which lasts maybe 5, tops 30 minutes, this can last between hours to weeks. I've seen it last for even weeks for some people. Seemingly for this one individual, it seemed to last for months. So what do we do with that? So there's two common issues that drive this sensation. One is thinking, catastrophic thinking that refeeds the panic cycle. So you feel this stuff and then you say to yourself something along the lines of, oh my God, what if this lasts forever, right? That, oh my God, what if it lasts forever? I hate how this feels. This is terrible. Makes you tighten up, makes you like, I don't like this feeling. The moment you start tightening up, the moment you start trying to somehow resist it, push away the experience, is the moment you feed the experience, and that's how it's maintained. So the antidote is to find a way of just letting it be. Just let that be. However long it's gonna last, if it has to last for weeks, so be it. It will last for weeks. If it has to last for the rest of my life, so be it. It's not gonna last for the rest of your life. But the attitude will help you interrupt that panic cycle. The other thing that can work immediately, this is more pertinent when your preoccupation, when you are strongly preoccupying yourself over your physical symptoms, and most people do. So you'll be like, oh, I hate how this feels. Oh, I hate how this feels. I just want this to go away. Okay, so there's a little exercise we can do. I oftentimes help people interrupt those sensations in the session, in that moment. So here's what we do. First, you just get very mindful, right? So you can do whatever you want. You can do it cross-legged. It doesn't really matter. You can just sit down. I like to kind of get into this, I don't know, like a standard position, let's call it. There is a little bit to be said about muscle memory. So if you practice meditation, mindfulness, there is a little bit to be said about always taking the same position when you're doing that activity, because your body then clicks into gear much faster. It's muscle memory. Yeah. So assume the position, the meditative position. If you have one, if you don't have one, it doesn't matter really. You can be walking and doing this. Although I prefer that for the first time you don't walk and don't distract yourself. All right, so we're all sitting down now. Now, first thing you might want to do is just notice your breathing. Just notice the inhale, notice the exhale. Notice the inhale, notice the exhale. Notice any resistance to taking a normal, comfortable breath. If there is one, just notice it. Don't mess with it. Don't try to do anything about it. Simply breathe within that relaxed range. Okay? Just breathe within that relaxed range. However far your chest wants to expand, just expand up to there and no further. Don't try to force it. Don't try to get a deeper breath. You might be, if that is something that's going on for you right now, the breath is constricted. One thing you can do when you feel, because you might be feeling like I'm not getting enough air. By the way, as I'm giving you these instructions, just keep doing that. Listen to me, giving you more instructions, but continue to do what I already instructed you to do. Okay, so at this point right now, you should be inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling. Okay, within the comfortable zone. You might be feeling like you're not getting enough air. That's a very common symptom, sensation. In which case, you have one option. Your option is never to go against the resistance. That is something we do not do because remember I told you that the resistance we present when we try to force the panic to, when we try to force the panic to go away, when we try to force these sensations to go away, we are actually feeding the problem. No. We're taking a different route. We're going to work with what we have. So you can speed up your breathing, okay? And go. So if let's say your breathing is something like, and it feels like it's not enough air, go a little faster. Now, if you are very panicky, then one of the things that's happening is your body's going through some physiological changes. Those physiological changes are meant to adapt you to a dangerous situation so that your muscles are primed for combat or running away. What that means is that your normal breaths are actually becoming a lot more efficient. So you might be feeling like you're not getting enough air. That's actually a symptom of too much air a lot of times. So what I want you to do in this case, if that is a sensation you're feeling, just remind yourself that you are obviously breathing very quickly and this sensation is an illusion because it is. You don't need that extra oxygen in these fight or flight situations, especially if you're sitting. You're not really doing anything with your body to require all that extra air. But that's one way you can kind of settle it down a little bit by speeding up your breathing rate. Okay, and just breathe. What I call this breathing within your bounds, right? Within the bounds that your body allows you to, meaning your chest is constricted. Your muscles there are all kinds of tied up, right? It's tightened up. So just breathe within how far you find it comfortable to breathe without fighting those muscles. All right, so we just covered, what we're doing right now is we're kind of grounding. We're building awareness to what's going on in our body. Next, let's just go from, the breath is a great place to start. You don't have to start with the breath, but it's one standard place to start. Now let's bring our attention, we're gonna do like a body scan. Let's bring our attention to the top of your head and start scanning downwards. The edges, a good thing I'm bold, it's easy to see, right? The edges, is there any tension here? Here. How about here? Check with your forehead, check sides, anything going on here? Check here, check behind your eyes, check your eyes. A lot of times eyes will have some sort of a sensation. Check here, jaw, check your chin, check your lips, see if maybe you're tightening your lips a little bit. Maybe it's not even visible, but you might be feeling it. Focus on just the feeling. Visual cues aren't as important, but feel free to look at me as I demonstrate what I'm doing. So check here, check all around your face. I'm going to keep going. Normally, I'm checking in with you. So if at any point in time you tell me that there's something there, I might pause. But I'm going to keep going for the sake of brevity. Check with your throat. Check here, what do we call these things? Shoulders. Check with your shoulders. Check with your chest. There's a lot of action oftentimes in the chest. There's some action oftentimes in the stomach. There might be some action in the back. Check with your whole back. Scan the top, mid, and bottom back. See if there's anything cooking there. Sensations of any kind, tingling, tension, usually tension of some kind. Maybe energy coursing. Check with your arms. Your arms might also be experiencing something. The fingertips might be experiencing something. Check with your butt, your thighs, your calves, your feet, your toes in your feet. Right, because toes only are on feet. They're not, we don't have toes on our hands. Anyways, check with all of that. And what I want you to do is make note of the sensations that draw your attention the most. The sensations that perhaps you are preoccupying yourself over the most. The ones that bother you the most. So take a moment, see what those might be. Okay, hope you got one. Now, what I want you to do is focus on that sensation. What I want you to do is bring all of your attention on that sensation and steady it. Okay, so the approach I want you to have towards steadying it, I hope you're doing this already as I'm giving you further instructions. The approach I want you to have as you're doing this is like that of a scientist studying a bacteria, right? A new bacteria, looking through the microscope. Better yet, a scientist on a safari, studying wild animals. You see a tiger, or no, not a tiger, a lion. That's usually what a safari has, right? A lion. You see a lion out there, and the lion is your sensation that you're studying, right? And here what I'm trying to communicate is a sense of patience that a scientist has. A biologist, I guess, right? So a biologist is out there. He sees a lion. The lion is under a tree, all right? Just laying down. Or maybe the lion is just walking in circles, right? So the average safari goer would be like, well, the lion is just laying down. He's not doing nothing, right? No, but that's not what a scientist does. Scientists will keep on observing. Same thing here. Why? Because the scientist will notice that, okay, you're fine. The lion is lying down. Looks like all its feet are, but look, he's getting more detailed. The scientist gets a lot more detailed. The lion has all its paws. It's lying on all of its paws flat, but its ear flickers every now and then. Whoop, 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 right? That's the kind of patience I want you to have, So keep looking at it and look out for things like if it's a tension, is it pulling, pushing, squeezing? If it's pushing, which way is it pushing? In from the sides, from the front? If it's pulling, in which direction? Can you identify the direction which is pulling? See if a color is associated with it. Does it have a color? Is there a shape? Can you see a shape to the sensation? Is there movement? So if it's like energy, a lot of times people will report some sort of movement in there. If there is movement, see if you can spot a pattern to the movement. For example, how many up and down kind of movements, if it's going up and down, I don't know where if it's going up and down for you, but how many, for example, up and down movements is it doing? Zoop, 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 zoop per second, or per 2 seconds, or per 5 seconds. However slow it's moving. I don't know how quickly it is moving for you. But notice these pulses. Is it intensifying and then letting up? And then intensifying again and then letting up? You're tracking this in a very non-judgmental way. In a very, you're not expecting anything, you're steadying it. So keep doing that. Make note of what you're seeing. At this point, I'd be asking you for more details if we were doing this in session to help you develop this. But we're not in a session, we're on a YouTube video. So we're going to have to make do with what we got. I'm gonna give you maybe a couple, maybe like 30 more seconds or so. So just keep studying it. See if you notice anything else. Texture, movement, three-dimensional shape. Three-dimensional is difficult. See if you can get a two-dimensional. Also notice any long-term patterns. So far you've been looking at it over the course of maybe a minute. Let's give it maybe another minute. See if you can pick up on some kind of patterns of behavior that take a little bit longer to emerge, right? Because if you only have a 5-second snapshot, you only see 5 seconds worth of activity, but maybe across 2 minutes, it'll change. Okay. So normally I would rely on feedback from what you look like during this session to see how connected you are to this activity, and I would adjust my instructions accordingly. But here I'm going to have to assume that you are very well immersed in this and that we're proceeding properly. You're able to identify some new details about this that perhaps weren't visible to you before. And I'm going to ask you to do an experiment. Are you willing to do an experiment? Okay. I'm assuming the answer is yes. What I want you to do is, first thing is, notice a part of you that's pushing that experience away. See if it's there. Is there some part of you that is like, oh, I don't want this, I don't want this, or some part of you that's trying to shrink the experience? If you noticed it, and many people do with this kind of a problem, what I want you to do is now bring your attention to disarming that part of you. Perhaps you can think of relaxing that part of you temporarily, just temporarily, for the length of this experiment, relaxing it, kind of like a muscle. We're gonna open all the doors for that sensation. That sensation is going to be free to do whatever it wants for the duration of this experiment. So start opening up all the doors, start working on that resistance to put its guard down, to lower, to open the gates. Let that sensation, allow the sensation to do whatever it wants. If it wants to move, let it move. If it wants to intensify, let it intensify. If it wants to shrink, allow it to shrink. Now, the thing that people typically don't want it to do is for it to get worse, right? But for the duration of this experiment, let's take that risk. Let's see what happens. Allow it full and total freedom. And let's see what happens. So go ahead and do that now. Okay, so keep doing that. Stay focused on this. There is a chance, depending on if we caught everything that we're supposed to catch. Again, I don't have you live in front of me, so it's hard for me to say where you are in the process. If there are any sticking points, if there were, we would address those. What I just gave you was a very generalized way of doing this approach, but hopefully you noticed that sensation, perhaps at first it got a little bit more intense. Why? Because you're about to do something scary, right? You're about to give it total freedom to do what it wants, which potentially might mean it getting worse. But then if you successfully drop the resistance from it, you were able to open all the doors like I was asking you to do, you likely experienced that symptom diminished in intensity, or at least started diminishing, because I'm kind of also shortening this a little bit. Usually I might give you a little bit more time. It all depends on what I see. I do this by video, so it all depends on what I see. I kind of go off of your facial expressions. People will present one way when they're at a certain intensity, and then they'll present another way when their intensity starts dropping. So hopefully the intensity of that sensation started dropping. If it did, the reason is because you stopped resisting it. What you just did, essentially, is you actually applied a mini version of the solution to the total panic problem. You allowed the panic to do whatever it wants. You allowed these sensations that you were preoccupying yourself over so much, that you were so worried about. Freedom. The nature of a panic attack is that it feeds itself. The more we resist it, the more we resist the experience, the more we resist these feelings, the more they stay, the more intense they even become. So what you can do now, assuming you made it this far, is apply the same protocol that I just kind of shared with you here on all the other symptoms. So we started with just one, the most intense one, hopefully. And now there's probably other ones that are also on your mind. What I want you to do is apply those, the same thing to those, rinse and repeat, and you should be dropping to a lower state of arousal. You should not be as riled up and anxious. You're interrupting the panic cycle. Congratulations. Now, something else you can do is, assuming that this clicked for you, is you can now take this little experience. That's a baby experience of surrender. Surrendering to the panic is a solution to the panic. Now, this is a baby version, but perhaps you can build off of it. Next time you start getting panicky, assume that mental place that you just discovered here and let it roll through you, right? A lot of times you'll be able to stop the panic cycle in its tracks before it even unfolds. And sometimes you'll be able to stop the panic attack if you can switch into that mental space, open up all the doors, letting it do whatever it wants. You'll be able to interrupt the panic attack after it has started. So I hope this was helpful. Leave your comments. I'm curious how you guys are doing with this, with these generic instructions that I gave. Again, during our sessions, I'm working with you exclusively, so I can customize the instructions based on your feedback. Sometimes people don't, certain metaphors that I might use might not click with some people, and so I'll have to adjust them. But I hope that this resonated with most of you, and I hope that most of you, if not all of you, I hope all of you, but let's be real, nothing is perfect, right? So let's just say, I hope all of you, but probably, if not all of you, most of you had success with this. Yeah, if you need a consultation, I do them for free. Just check out the link in the bottom of this video. If you want some more tips, go also in the description box, there'll be a link for a newsletter. I start off with like a panic survival guide, and I give you a bunch of other tips on a regular basis. And subscribe. All right, so I will see you in the next video. Bye.